Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we pull back the curtain on some truly fascinating connections that shape our world. Today, we're jumping into a pretty surprising story about a historic family and, well, their unexpected ties to modern politics and media.
That's right. Our focus is the Rothschild family, a German Jewish banking dynasty that started way, way back in the 1700s with Mayer Rothschild. And we're going to navigate some very specific claims. These are pulled from an audio source that really aims to expose, as it puts it, aspects of this family's modern connections.
Yeah, so our mission here is basically to sift through these claims, pull out the most important nuggets of information for you, and help you understand the specific arguments and observations presented in the source. What's really at stake here for you is getting a clear picture of how powerful, multi-generational wealth might intersect with public life. So let's unpack this.
Okay. So historically, the Rothschilds, they've been an incredibly prominent and enduring banking dynasty for centuries. Established their financial prowess back in the 1700s. Their influence spread across Europe and well beyond.
And because of that long history, that immense wealth, they've, of course, been the subject of various conspiracy theories for a very long time. Our source mentions some of these, like theories about them sponsoring both sides of conflicts just to enrich themselves, that kind of thing. But it's important to stress the material we're examining today isn't really about those broader, older theories. Instead, it specifically zeroes in on much more recent claims detailed in a particular set of emails.
Exactly. That's a crucial distinction for this deep dive. We're looking specifically at revelations from Hillary Clinton's own emails released by WikiLeaks. And this actually happened before the later, maybe more widely known Podesta emails came out. That was a separate leak from her campaign chairman, and before all the associated Pizzagate stuff, which is, unrelated conspiracy theories.
Right, okay. And this is where the source really digs in. It highlights a specific email exchange. ID 1606006. Though, honestly, the ID number isn't the important part, it's the content. The exchange was between Hillary Clinton, who was Secretary of State at the time, and Lynn Rothschild. The source describes her as the publisher of The Economist magazine and calls her the matriarch of the bizarre Rothschild banking dynasty. Strong words there.
Definitely strong words. So in this particular email, Hillary Clinton's writing to Lynn Rothschild. She's explaining she was trying to reach both Lynn and Teddy Rothschild. She wanted to tell them she'd asked Tony Blair, the former UK Prime Minister, to go to Israel. It was part of what she called a full court press, basically, a big push to keep Middle East negotiations going. Blair had apparently told Clinton that he actually had a prior commitment in Aspen with Lynn and Teddy at some conference.
Oh, okay. So there's a clash. But after talking to Clinton, Blair decides, okay, I'll go to Israel. And he asks Clinton to pass on his apologies to the Rothschilds. Clinton then writes in the email how grateful she was that he accepted her request, hoped Lynn and Teddy would understand, and offered Blair a rain check. But here's the bit that really caught the source's attention, and ours too. The closing line of Clinton's message. Let me know what penance I owe you, and please explain to Teddy as ever.
H.
Penance, yeah. And Lynn Rothschild's reply is, well, it's just as intriguing, she writes back. We, of course, understand and thank you for personally reaching out to us. It's a big loss for the weekend, but as we know, it does not add up to a hill of beans. You are the best, and we remain your biggest fans. Sweet dreams and Godspeed with everything you are doing. Oxo Lynn. It's like Oxo Lynn, like hugs and kisses, right? British style. It's a really fascinating exchange. The source points out that researchers looking at these emails were quite puzzled by it. And it does raise some pretty direct questions, like, why is a private citizen, Lynn Rothschild, getting this kind of detailed info about Tony Blair's movements straight from the Secretary of State? And maybe even more striking, as the source asks, why is Clinton's language so unusual? The source calls it Game of Thrones stuff. Seemingly subservient or submissive, especially, when you compare it to hundreds of her other emails, which are often super short, like one or two words. Penance I owe you. That's just not standard diplomatic speak, is it?
No, it really isn't. It definitely stands out. It makes you wonder about the specific dynamic of that relationship, like the source says. And then when we connect this to the wider picture, the material points out that Lynn Rothschild was also a major, major financial backer of Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign.
Right, that's a key connection the source highlights. It cites a New York Times report that Lynn Rothschild actually held, or at least organized, a dinner for Hillary Clinton. Price tag. $100,000 per plate. And apparently for the right price, attendees could even ask Clinton a question directly. According to the source, it certainly paints a picture of privileged access.
Yeah, and this is where the source brings in what it sees as a kind of powerful contradiction. It contrasts that, very elite event with the idea of inclusive capitalism, something Lynn Rothschild reportedly talks about on her Twitter page. The analysis in the source specifically points out the perceived inconsistency there, blocking journalists, but hosting these super expensive, exclusive dinners.
Yeah, it gets even more intriguing, doesn't it? With the mention of Sidney Blumenthal. The source claims that in other emails, Blumenthal, who was a longtime Clinton advisor, seems to be ghostwriting an article that apparently makes fun of conspiracy theories focused around the idea that the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds pull the strings of the U.S. government.
Right. So the source really highlights that contradiction. You've got a Clinton advisor seemingly debunking these kinds of theories, while Clinton herself is sending this penance email to a Rothschild.
It's almost like something out of I don't know, a political drama, isn't it? The source really pushes on this point. What exactly is this relationship? And why would a Clinton advisor be discrediting ideas that, well, other email content seems to kind of corroborate?
It definitely raises questions about how information is shaped, particularly when we look at the role of the media in all this. Which leads us to the next part of the source's analysis, shifting focus to The Economist magazine, noting again that it's published by Lynn Rothschild. The source really delves into The Economist's finances and specifically questions the role of something called the Economist Intelligence Unit.
Okay, and this is a crucial point the source is making. It claims that, well, a significant chunk of The Economist's revenue actually comes from public policy consulting.
Hmm.
Money received from, and I quote the source here, people in Washington, D.C. The analysis suggests this intelligence unit seems to be where a lot of their money is coming from, implying the magazine itself, the publication we read, is not all that profitable. Certainly makes you think about the motivations behind it all.
And this leads to a very, very strong assertion from the source. It claims The Economist acts as, quote, basically a propaganda mouthpiece for the Rothschilds. Strong stuff. It argues the magazine consistently supports things like big government, social democrats, money printing, central banks, and it claims The Economist consistently supports figures like the Clintons, particularly Hillary, while consistently opposing nationalism and figures like Donald Trump.
So the source throws out this really provocative question. Is The Economist magazine really just an expensive vanity project for the Rothschilds, under the guise of providing economic insight, but actually there to push their own political agenda, promote politicians they like, criticize ones they don't? It's a compelling point from the source for you, the listener, to consider.
And what's important here, I think, is the source's clarification.
Yeah.
It points out that while this kind of setup, this behavior, might not actually be illegal, it certainly raises questions about whether it truly counts as journalism or if it's maybe closer to just promotion. It's a distinction the source wants to highlight, kind of prompting you to evaluate how you consume news, where it's coming from.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the source material, what does all this really boil down to for you?
Yeah.
It definitely raises some pretty fascinating questions. Questions about the nature of the relationship between high-level public officials and, well, private citizens with significant wealth, and the potential influence, right, that wealth might exert on both media narratives and political ones.
Absolutely. When you explore sources like this one, it really prompts you to consider that intricate, often hidden web of connections you find in powerful circles, and how financial structures might influence the information we get, the public discourse. You really have to wonder, when you see these kinds of connections laid out by the source, about the layers of influence that might exist just beneath the surface. So the final thought, maybe, is what implications does this have for how you evaluate the news and how you think about the powerful figures who shape our world?